In December 1968, Barbara Jane Mackle was a 20-year-old student at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. She was the daughter of a wealthy businessman, Robert Mackle, and was home for the holiday season, nursing a bad case of the flu. To make her more comfortable, Barbara's mother, Jane, took her to a local motel in Decatur, Georgia. But little did they know they were being watched. Steven Krist, an escaped convict with a high IQ, and his accomplice, Ruth Eisman-Shear, had meticulously planned to kidnap a wealthy young woman and demand ransom. They had already scoped out Barbara as their target. On the early morning of December 17th, Krist and Eisman-Shear knocked on Barbara and her mother's motel room door, pretending to be police officers with news about her boyfriend. The ruse worked, and Jane Mackle opened the door. The kidnappers burst in, brandishing a gun and chloroforming Jane to subdue her. Barbara, terrified but compliant, was taken from the room and forced into their car. They drove her to a secluded wooded area in Gwinnett County, Georgia, where the real horror began. Krist and Eisman-Shear had prepared a coffin-like box that was already buried in the ground. The box was specially designed with supplies to keep Barbara alive, but it was still a horrifying contraption. About 3 feet by 7 feet and 3 feet deep, the box included a battery-operated fan for ventilation, water, and food, including candy bars and juice, a light bulb, and a blanket. Barbara was forced into this narrow, stifling box, her wrists tied but with limited movement to handle her supplies. Krist instructed her on how to use the fan and light, warning her to conserve the batteries and to avoid trying to escape. He assured her that her father would pay the ransom and that she would be freed within a few days, but his reassurances did little to lessen the terror. Once inside, Krist and Eisman-Shear covered the box with dirt, burying Barbara alive. For the next 83 hours, more than 3 days, Barbara lay in the dark, cramped box, fighting panic and the overwhelming fear that she might never see daylight again. She rationed her food and water carefully and wrote notes to keep herself calm, counting the hours as best as she could. While Barbara was trapped, her father received a ransom demand for $500,000. The instructions were meticulous and specific, with Krist warning that any deviation would put Barbara's life in danger. Robert Mackle complied without question, gathering the ransom money and delivering it as directed. After receiving the money, Krist made an anonymous call to the FBI, giving them directions to where Barbara was buried. On December 20th, the FBI agents raced to the location Krist described. After frantically digging, they uncovered the box and pulled Barbara out. Though weak and exhausted, she was miraculously alive, having survived 3 days underground with limited air and light. Barbara's calm and resourceful nature helped her survive the ordeal. She later recounted that she never gave up hope, even in the face of darkness and isolation. The FBI quickly apprehended Krist, who was found with some of the ransom money in a swamp in Florida. Eisman-Shear became the first woman to be on the FBI's 10 most wanted list and was eventually captured several months later. Both kidnappers were convicted and sentenced, though Krist was controversially paroled after serving 10 years and continued to have run-ins with the law. Eisman-Shear was deported after serving her sentence. Barbara later wrote a book, 83 Hours Till Dawn, detailing her harrowing experience and how she survived against all odds. Her ordeal remains one of the most terrifying and unique kidnapping cases in American history, a tale of courage and willpower that has inspired both awe and horror for decades. Follow Unforgiven Crimes.